Oh man, I can't wait to check out this new Xbox Series X Microsoft game presentation. This is going to be so awesome. I cannot wait to see what they've got coming for us. Oh man, here it is! Here it is! Here's the big one! Here's the big one!
But only a few truly feel it.
Man, we're just never gonna get a new Banjo-Kazooie. You know, there almost was one though. Ah yes, the N64 era was a golden one. The memories of traversing through the magical, luscious, enchanting atmospheres of Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, and Pokemon Snap will always be held close to my heart. From this era also emerged a new IP created by the legendary developer Rareware, Banjo-Kazooie. Newer gamers will probably recognize Banjo-Kazooie as the unprecedented Smash DLC that set the industry ablaze last year, but Banjo's glory days were on the N64 in his debut titles, Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. There was just something about these games that made them magical. Okay, well it wasn't just something. Rare started to become synonymous with platformers, and a big part of that is thanks to the Banjo-Kazooie series. Unfortunately, just as the GameCube released and fans were getting amped for the expected Banjo 3E, Microsoft bought out Rare and they began developing games exclusively for the Xbox. All games that were planned or in development for Nintendo hardware were either cancelled completely or reworked into different games. Banjo did eventually see a follow-up in the form of a racing title, Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, but we never got a true sequel to the N64 titles. Enter Playtonic Games. After being bought out by Microsoft, Rare's reputation began to sink. A few of Rare's founding members decided to jump ship in 2014 and form their own dev company, Playtonic Games. Their first project was advertised as a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie, called Project Yooka-Laylee. The Kickstarter goal of $1 million was funded within 24 hours. Fans were ecstatic about finally seeing another platformer in the same tune as Banjo, and after a 3-year development cycle, Yooka-Laylee was released in 2017. So, let's take a dive and see what this game is all about. First, let's examine the gameplay. The gameplay is quite similar to that of Banjo-Kazooie. You play as the titular characters, Yooka the Chameleon and Laylee the Bat. As the game progresses, you traverse across several worlds with the goal of collecting pages, which are magical talking pages of a book that Yooka and Laylee need for, some reason. I'm not gonna lie. I accidentally skipped the opening cutscene and I have no idea what these are needed for. Maybe next time they shouldn't allow a player to skip an opening cutscene. Yooka uses most of the same mechanics as Banjo. You can double jump with the assistance of Laylee's wings to reach high cliffs and platforms, attack enemies with a twirl kick, eat butterflies to regain health, and swim through treacherous waters. Each world has a shopkeeper that allows you to buy new special abilities in exchange for quills, which are this game's equivalent to Banjo's notes. Some of the power-ups include projectile firing, the ability to walk underwater, and a turbo jump. Some of the special abilities run on a power meter, which replenishes on its own after a few seconds or can be refueled instantly by collecting butterflies. The downside is that this power meter is relatively short at the beginning, which makes using special abilities a little frustrating. This can eventually be extended with boosters that are collected throughout the game. The worlds are all connected by a hub world, which is set within the main villain's factory, similar to how Banjo's worlds were all connected within Gruntilda's castle. The hub world itself also holds some secrets you can access as you gain more power-up abilities, and overall adds a more immersive feel to the game. While exploring each of the game's worlds, I had a lot of fun revisiting some of the first worlds after I gained power-up abilities down the road. It was very rewarding unlocking pages in previous worlds, and I liked that the game rewarded you for remembering certain puzzles and traps that were previously unsolvable. Overall, the game's mechanics, while a bit buggy here and there, work extremely well. I never encountered a situation I wasn't able to get myself out of. The environments are creative and fun to venture through, and there are countless puzzles to solve. The camera is also very non-intrusive and is utilized well within the game. Okay, wait, they did put racing into Yooka-Laylee. Wow, is this thing even 4-wheel drive? This handles terrible in the ice. I wonder how this handles in the water. Okay, so you can't drive the lizard truck in the water. Next up, let's check out the game's plot. Yooka-Laylee's adventure begins as the evil CEO to big business Highbury Towers, capital B, steals Yooka and Laylee's mystical book, known as the One Book. The one book has magical properties, and Capital B attempts to use its powers to take over the world. When Yooka and Laylee discover that it's missing, they bust into Ivory Towers to retrieve their property, but discover that the book was torn apart and the pages were spread across multiple worlds within Ivory Towers. The pair sets off to collect all the missing pages and reassemble their book, both recovering their beloved keepsake and thwarting Capital B's plan to take over the world. The story is simple enough to be straightforward and provides players enough context to progress, but also deep enough to keep players engaged. The cutscenes are obviously a direct parallel to the structure from Banjo-Kazooie. The characters' voices are played as broken pieces of speech, which is charming at first, but quickly gets more annoying than anything. That's actually how I accidentally skipped the opening cutscene. I was just trying to scroll through the text quicker. In each new world, you'll encounter various recurring and world-exclusive characters. Their importance and relevance is a mixed bag. Most of the recurring characters, like Trouser the Snake and Dr. Puzz the Octopus Girl, seem to fit the game's world well, but I can't say the same for some of the world-exclusive characters. Some of them seem not to fit the environment at all. For example, in the game's third world, which is a marshy swamp, you'll meet a variety of talking shopping carts? It seems like the game devs had a lot of creative character ideas, but didn't quite have the applicable environments for them. It takes away from the immersion aspect of the game and doesn't quite hit the mark. The game ends with Yooka and Laylee recovering all the lost pages of their book, and Ivory Towers is exposed to be part of an even bigger corporation, which still has its sights set on retrieving the one book from Yooka and Laylee. This effectively sets the game up for its sequel, which was released last year. The gameplay and plot might be solid, but what about the soundtrack? I'll just cut right to the chase. The music in this game is a solid It seems like the composer got it right for some of the environments, but for others, it just feels intrusive. The most obvious example of this is the theme music for the hub world, which is so barbarically loud that it almost drowns out the characters' voices during cutscenes. A big part of what made Banjo-Kazooie so special was its memorable soundtrack and catchy tunes that fit the theme of each of its worlds. On the contrary, some of Yooka-Laylee's compositions are so overpowering that I found myself either muting the game volume or simply exploring another area. That's not to say there's not bright moments. In specific, the game's main theme song is very catchy and complements Yooka-Laylee's vibe perfectly. They also wrote a rap song that was meant to pay homage to the opening rap to Donkey Kong 64. I'm just gonna let you listen and be the judge of how well they did.
Really hope you have a blast, 'cause this friendship is built to last.
Overall, even though the music may be a mixed bag, I think Playtonic is headed in the right direction, and I'm excited to see what compositions will be featured in follow-up titles from this developer. So, after examining all of this, what's the final verdict? Yooka-Laylee is a bright, colorful effort that shines through the years of darkness we faced without Rare's golden age. The game clearly had a lot of support throughout the development cycle, and was created with lots of love. The game's director was Chris Sutherland, who was also responsible for programming the original Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong 64, and it's clear that his efforts guided this title in the right direction on many levels. When Yooka-Laylee was released, it was panned by critics, and that is the main reason why I put off playing this title for so long. I really wish I would have given this game a chance much sooner, because I had a blast with Yooka-Laylee. Playtonic's biggest mistake in the marketing for Yooka-Laylee was labeling it as a spiritual successor to Banjo. The gatekeepers came out of the woodwork to criticize this game for, basically, not being Banjo-Kazooie. Once I stopped comparing Yooka-Laylee to Banjo and started to play the game as its own, I found that my experience was much better. At the end of the day, they're not the same game. Will we ever get a new Banjo? A real actual sequel to Banjo? Only time will tell if that will ever happen. In the meantime, if you're craving the world-exploring, puzzle-solving collectathon similar to the N64 era of Rare platformers, I would encourage you to give Yooka-Laylee a shot. Not checking this one out would be just batty.
Free, just take a look at you, I'm called Yooka-Laylee.